Alien Isolation is a survival horror game that plunges players into the terrifying world of Amanda Ripley, daughter of Ellen Ripley. Set 15 years after the events of the original Alien film, Amanda embarks on a journey to discover what happened to her mother. She arrives at the Sevastopol space station only to find it overrun by a deadly xenomorph. That's what we call aliens sometimes. Unlike typical action games, Alien Isolation emphasizes stealth and survival. Amanda is outmatched by the alien on every level. Equipped only with rudimentary tools, she must rely on her wits, crafting abilities, and the environment to stay alive. As the station's systems fail and its inhabitants grow increasingly hostile, Amanda must navigate this claustrophobic and crumbling environment, avoiding not only the xenomorph, but also aggressive androids and panicked survivors. The game's atmosphere captures the tension and dread of the original film, with a single xenomorph stalking Amanda for much of the game, creating a constant sense of danger. Players are immersed in a world where every sound or misstep could lead to death, making Alien Isolation a masterful return to the franchise's survival horror roots.
Very interesting. The game is obviously trying to recreate the feeling of Alien.
Yes.
So what is it about Romulus that reminds you of the game?
So from the moment I saw the trailer for this film, I thought, this guy has played Alien Isolation.
Because he probably hasn't watched the movie. He's probably just played the game.
Because it's all there. It's like the space station that's empty, sort of floating through space, that a crew arrives to. And when they get there, boy, does it all look like everything's gone to hell in this place. And of course, that's because there's an alien in there that's on the havoc, just killing everybody. And it sort of takes, Alien was confined to quite a small spacecraft. It expands that out. Like, what does the world of Alien and that technology look like if it's an entire space station as opposed to a smaller craft? And so you see cafeterias, science bays, stairwells, lifts, and basically everything that you see in this film feels like you've already walked through it if you've played Alien Isolation.
Wow. Are there strip clubs like in Grand Theft Auto?
Well, there probably are, but you don't go to those in the game. But even things like the concept of androids that are malfunctioning, that's in Alien Isolation. And when what's the name of the character again?
Rain.
No, the android, the
Andy.
brother, Andy. So when Andy's sort of glitching and he's on the floor just twitching, that's what half the time when you walk past an android in Alien Isolation, it's on the floor twitching. It might just suddenly grab your leg and start beating you up because it's on some sort of, circuit breaker mode.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things in there that really felt like they were, taken directly from the game, brought across. And even sort of the climax of the film draws, I think, a lot of inspiration from the game, which has this scenario where you've been chased by one xenomorph, and then, massive spoiler alert here, suddenly there are many coming out of the depths and they're attacking you all at once. And that happens here too.
This is quite informative, really, because I guess the introduction of the game requires, like you said, the creation of this whole world. Like, in order for the game to exist, you got to create the world, and then you got all these gaming nerds like you getting in there and discovering the world as if it's a world. They know it.
Just loving it, being in there, terrified every second, but loving it.
Yeah, so it goes to almost the merging, this has been on the cards for some time, the merging of cinema with gaming as gaming gets better. And I'm sure when you add AI to the equation, this is only going to go one direction, where we're all just having immersive storylines that we kind of inhabit rather than watch. But that's what it feels like. So I completely get it now. And how could you not create a film that feels like the game?
Absolutely, it had to be done. when I played the game, I was like, well, this is a movie. Like, why hasn't this movie been made yet? Because it's perfect. I loved, in particular, the idea of bringing in Ripley's daughter.
Yeah.
I think that's just so clever. It makes sense with the timeline. You've already got the seeds of the fact that her daughter's grown old and died in the time while she was, in cryo sleep. So, it fits perfectly into the world.
And that's what felt a little missing here. And I don't think it necessarily needs to be missing. But because Sigourney Weaver is such an iconic, person in the series, and because this happens, during her time, you would have almost expected some, some reference to her, like her parents knew, her brother or something, and they used to tell stories about, how they fished in the swamp.
Yep, absolutely. So the way they did the callback, and I can't believe we haven't talked about this already, is with Rook.
Of course, yes.
The science officer android from the first film. I think that's what they were trying to do. And of course they had the sort of, the headshots of all the crew that went missing in there, a little bit of sort of, information just sort of sprinkled in there for us all to just feel like it's connected. Rook is in this film, and it is the worst de-aging I've ever seen. It just ripped me right out of the film. Like I felt completely betrayed by it. It almost ruined the whole thing for me.
Yeah, it didn't look like 2024 tech, did it? It was almost like they challenged themselves to do it based on a 1980s technology.
Yes. I have a feeling that they tried to do an animatronic version.
Yeah.
And failed miserably. And then their backup was, well, we'll just chuck a 3D head over the top of this and it'll be fine.
Yeah, and they needed to hand it in by Friday, so they couldn't do any better.
God, it was awful. That alone almost ruins the whole thing.
Oh, you're tough.
I know. But it's just, my opinion is, if you're directing this film and you've got this budget and this weight of like fandom behind you to sort of get it right, you go either this looks perfect or it's a different actor. We just do it. We just don't make it Rook. We just make it a different android, a different science officer, because it has to be perfect or we're not doing it.
How can you not do it perfectly? When I'm scrolling through my Instagram, every second one is some person with like an AI Arnold Schwarzenegger or Elon Musk mask.
Yes. That looks better than this.
That looks exactly like the real person. So how is it not just... Is it because they purposely don't use AI tools, I suppose?
I don't know.
No, it couldn't be that.
There'd
be ways around.
I don't have a way to explain this away.
Yeah.
I honestly don't.
Well, back to positives.
Okay, good.
Back to positives and back to the game. Like, even though I haven't played the game, I've seen it on YouTube, so I get what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But where I can agree is there's this particular scene where, when they put the what is it called when they're floating? the
anti-gravity.
The anti-gravity.
Yeah.
Anti-gravity.
Well, it's sort of, they turn off the gravity assist thing.
They turn off the gravity assist thing.
Yeah.
And that means it's a cunning plan. It's a great thing to do, and that means all the acid is like floating around in space, and the characters are having to dodge the acid. That felt so much like you were them, and in a video game.
Yes.
I felt like reaching for the joystick to maneuver the character.
Absolutely agree. Now, can I throw in a bonus game?
Please.
Reference. So, because I think Fede is a big gamer, right? I've got a feeling. So there's a game called Dead Space where it's another survival horror thing. It's just more of a horror space game, like, less survival. You're surviving, but you've got guns and stuff, right?
Yeah.
But they have in it this whole setup of, sections of this spaceship have no gravity assist thing on. Like, so you're just going to be going sometimes through no gravity. And there's going to be stuff floating everywhere, and there's going to be monsters, coming at you, just leaping off the sides of the walls and stuff. So it felt a lot like that. So I had a sense, he's he loves this genre. It's a cool genre. It's a fun genre. He's gone, that Alien Isolation's great, but that one thing from Dead Space, like, that was cool. That's going in as well.
That's just made me remember how I, a non-gamer, feel like I've played this game before. It feels like Mario Brothers when you're underwater.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
You know, when you're having to sort of maneuver them by, like, the water's pushing down on you, so the vibe is different. It's not just straight ahead.
Yep.
You have to kind of push up and then time your run, because it's going to gradually float down, and then you give it a bit more power to go that way. And
totally. Love it.
You know
I know what you're talking about. Yep.
Does the audience? I'm not sure.
Do they? Who knows? They'll tell us in the comments.
Cool. Well, that's Alien Isolation. Do you have any other?
No, I think that's enough.